Welcome back to Gear and Beer.
Cheers.
Cheers. Johnny Stanton joins us today, the pride of Eau Claire, Wisconsin. Johnny, welcome.
Thank you, Rob.
This is, for first-time listeners, a video and audio podcast. So if you're listening to it, be sure to check it out on YouTube for more in-depth content. We've got all kinds of angles of all the gear and all of that crap. Enough about me. Johnny.
Hey.
You brought some cool stuff. There'll be no question as to who this B-15 belongs to.
Right.
It does have your name embossed upon it.
Indeed, yeah. I just, I had to get that option once I saw it. You know, once it was available, I thought that, well.
Lyndon, do you have an amp with your name on it?
No, but I did have a Crate Blue Voodoo that had backlighting with the tubes and a clear grill.
I know what you're talking about. Those are pretty cool, too.
Dude, it was
actually a pretty good sounding clean side, the dirty side, not so
I'm
much.
having complete deja vu because I just edited the podcast where we were talking about that with Tony today.
Perfect.
And we were talking about that same amp, and you said exactly that about the clean sound. So Lyndon McCarty over here twisting and tweaking.
Hi.
As always. That was very cute. Johnny brought some toys today. He's got his... So this is a vintage amp on a redone cabinet with a new speaker, correct?
Correct. It's a 63 head. I actually have the original cabinet as well, but I have the new cabinet that's made by Vintage Blue. My buddy Mark Gannenberger up in Cincinnati made this.
If you'll give me a link, I'll provide a link to that in the YouTube as well. Having
old B-15s, this is one of those things where recording, they can become noisy with the old plies coming unglued, and the head sounds great. And the cabinet on that one sounded great too, but this one I wanted to have. I saw Mark had built a white one for Daryl Jones from the Stones with a Heritage, I guess it was a Heritage head. And I was like, well, let's do that with an old head. How about? So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I mean, it looks awesome.
Yeah, I bring it to a few sessions, but I don't bring it out a whole lot. But it's fun. It sounds great too. So
it's so pristine, and the Tolex is.
Yeah, she's pretty.
It's beautiful. What speaker did you say was in there? It's JBL.
Yeah, it's a Jbl K140, and they seem to pair well with the these heads and these amps, obviously. But and their magnet's small enough where it fits in between the transformers. So a JBL is a good option for a B-15 if you're looking to change out your stock speaker.
There you have it, folks. Tips from the pro himself. And you brought a little bass over there. That's your is that your what you would refer to as your baby?
Yeah, it would probably be my main number one, I guess you'd say, or baby.
Do you play multiple basses on the road?
I do.
What else are you playing?
Another P bass, of course. This has got flats, so I have another P bass with rounds and with a hip shot, so I can do drop D because we go back and forth a lot.
Sure.
And I also been using my Wayland Telly bass lately at the
I forgot about that.
Tool leather.
Yeah, that's a cool bass, man. You'll have to bring that next time when you come back. You'll certainly have to come back
for sure.
That's cool. So we kind of got everything mic'd up here, or we actually have the B-15 running through the UA aux. And I forget what cabinet we're using, but
we went with the Greenie 412.
Yeah, so we're using the Greenie 412. So that's essentially the 412 greenback option there, which sounds really awesome. And then we're also coming out of my pedal board here. I've got the API LX transformer, which is the bass model. I just recently got that, and I was interested to hear your bass with flats through it. So we've got that as well. And if we want to, we can turn on the Ampeg DI into the API, which is another cool sound. Do we have sound right now?
I think we do. Yep, we do.
Is that everything? Okay, yeah, that's the
API.
That's the API. And are you on standby or are you on? Because we should have both.
I think and it's the B-15, right?
Okay, so that's a blend of the B-15.
Yep.
Hit that bypass on that the API, and now this is the B-15.
Yeah, it's just the B-15, right?
Yeah, that sounds
fantastic.
It's so woody and like open sounding, which is just kind of what I look for in guitars and basses in general. Just
for sure.
And amps, because the wood, like the way the instrument sounds acoustically, and that one sounds amazing acoustically.
It really
it's like what you want to try to. So that's what I want to hear.
Sure.
I don't want to hear I'm not into the super like. There's a lot of instances, like particularly in modern gospel, where that's not really the sound, but that sound can still work.
Sure.
But it's generally like the very glossy, boosty sounds, you know?
More active.
I'm not drawn to those as much unless doing that kind of a gig. But so let's do this then. Let's stand by this and turn that API.
Yeah, there you go.
And that's just the API, and I've got everything flat and there's no compression. We got the gain at about 1030, I would say.
Yeah. There's the Ampeg.
Yeah, now that's the Ampeg SCRDI into the LX, which is kind of what I've been doing now. I EQ differently depending on which bass I'm playing, and I just get everything set flat.
Sure.
We got a healthy buzz.
Coming from. Yeah.
I think it's by me pointing my bass at my amp.
It definitely is.
So here I'll just
there it is.
I'll face away a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I didn't mean for you to sit here and play all night or anything.
No, it's good. We can hear the differences, though.
Dude, that sounds super fat to me.
I mean, even flat, that sounds great.
It really does. Turn the B15 back on now. Now this is the best of both
Blended,
worlds.
yeah.
I mean, come on.
That's
it.
Dude, that sounds like a big old buttery biscuit.
It sure does.
Yeah, I mean, how else do you describe that?
I mean, what else do you want? I mean, that's.
And I don't do anything to the audio in post. I do to the vocals, but I don't touch guitars or bass sounds, so that it's as true a representation of what we're hearing right now as possible.
That's killer.
I guess that's not true because there's like bus compression, master bus, whatever, blah blah blah.
But you're not really messing with it.
Very subtle, probably like a 4-to-1 ratio.
No plugins or anything on the guitars or the basses.
And these strings are probably a month old. I mean, we've been playing pretty steady, so they're slightly broken in.
And they're cobalt flats, you said?
Cobalt flats, yeah.
Right on. 45-105?
45-105.
I played it earlier. That bass play is amazing.
It's a 61P if anyone's curious what it is.
Yeah.
Slab board, so.
And so there's a story about this bass. It was something was broken on it, was it not?
There was a few issues with this bass when I first got it.
But wasn't there like a structural, like a wood issue?
Oh, that was my 57.
Oh.
That had a crack in the back.
That's right.
And that was stabilized. But this one's, I mean, it's got plenty of wear and tear, obviously.
The wear is beautiful on it, yeah.
But it needed to be refretted really bad when I first got it. My buddy Tony Nagy over at Gruen, he refretted it for me.
Tony's doing that over there?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, Tony's the man.
That's good to know, bro. I'm going to take him. I've got Billy Freeman's dad's 80 G&L L1000 that desperately needs frets.
Oh, yeah.
And that bass is...
Those are cool basses.
It is cool. They call that beginner's vintage because they only made them those 2 years, 80 and 81.
Right.
But you can find them for like $1,200.
Yeah,
and you can probably find them for cheaper than that if you're really, really looking for that bass specifically.
Right.
But they look cool, and despite being kind of heavy, they very much do the Stingray sound, which is I don't have that in my arsenal. I just have the Jazz and the P.
Yeah, definitely. I just picked up a Stingray, but yeah. That was a sound I always had to borrow if I needed it for a session.
You just about to say you just use it on sessions, right? I've never seen you play one.
Right. No, I've had a few over the years, but it's usually one of those things where it's like, that would be a cool option for this. So it's been something I'd have to borrow, but yeah, it's great to have now. But. And
you have an old Epi hollow body that you take to sessions too, right?
I do, yeah.
I was going to borrow that for that session that
That's right.
ended up following through, but man, I should have told you to bring that. I wanted to see that bass.
No, well, next time.
Indeed, next time you just have to really load the car down before you come over.
That's cool.
So you guys are steady hitting it. For those who don't know, listeners and watchers, Johnny plays bass for a band called Steelwoods. I will definitely put a Spotify link in the YouTube description for that. I'm not sure how linking is going to work with my audio distribution yet, so I will let you know when I figure that out. I'm still working on the. At this point in the podcast, I have done a soft release just today to see how long it takes to hit before I announce it. So we'll be online soon. And this is Gear and Beer episode 7.
Excellent.
So lucky number 7, Johnny Stanton.
I'll take it.
I got to find that. I got to get Tyler LeBronson Smith to send me that picture and use that as your picture.
I'm scared.
Did you see it?
I don't think I did. Although I see a lot of those photos, you know.
So for our listeners, if you can imagine Leonardo DiCaprio's face on, I would say, early 80s Ronnie James Dio hair. The hair is not quite the same, but it's the same length as your hair, and so and you kind of look like Leonardo DiCaprio. So
I've got the Leo thing for years. So
well, I mean, I see it.
Yeah, I guess I do too, to an extent.
Ladies, that's dope, man.
Yeah,
so,
man.
And you said that you're playing your VR SVT on the road.
Yep, been using my SVT VR for the last few years just to have more headroom.
But you're doing a 212 and a 115.
I'm doing a 212.
Right?
Yep, right.
And they're separate cabs.
Separate cabs. It's the SVT 212 that would come with the V4B reissue.
Okay.
That's kind of the mate to that. I was using 2 of the 212s with that V4B, and then I switched to the SVT just for some more headroom because it was breaking
Watch
up.
that mic with your sibilance.
Sorry there.
It's going close. I hear a bunch of. I'll eventually this podcast will have what are they called? Pop filters for all microphones,
right?
And maybe the right microphones. But hey, who's to know?
Hey. I think they call it professional equipment.
Professional equipment. Well, this is certainly professional equipment that is improperly set up for this particular iteration. So I've got that going for me. So holler if you hear me.
Sorry, I'll try not to pop too much over here.
Yeah, don't be popping them gums at me, son.
Popping. Come on, daddy. No, but so I've been using those 2 cabinets and the SVT. I had Mark Gannenberger build the bottom cabinet.
That's this guy, right?
The builder of the white cabinet. He built me the single 15 cabinet, the same dimensions as the 212 cabinet, because I was kind of missing the booty of a 15.
Yeah.
So it's kind of best of both worlds. You got the headroom of the SVT, got the punch of the 212, and the bottom end of the 15.
I bet that's a thick boy.
It really is.
I bet it is.
Works well.
And I'll try to remember to put a link to the Steelwoods. What, do you guys got an official website? Or
yeah, thesteelwoods.com.
Okay, so I'll put a link to thesteelwoods.com, or feel free to take yourself and try to find Johnny somewhere. They're like literally all over the place. You guys travel kind of brutal, to be totally honest, but that's the life we've chosen. To
Indeed.
A certain extent.
Yeah. I mean, we have a bus driver, so it's not like we're all vanning it together.
Sure.
But yeah, no, once we get going, you know, on a good weekend, or we got a pretty long run coming up, so it should be fun.
Yeah, I saw that. Showed me that schedule earlier. Oh shoot, I'm dropping all my stuff. So like when you found this bass, when you pick up a bass acoustically, what are you looking for? You know, like, do you have a set of, like, you know, 'cause for me, for instance, like, I want the bass or the guitar or whatever instrument to sound good acoustically, whether it's an electric instrument or not.
Sure.
And I want it to feel good and a balance. And something that I worry about these days is, I don't buy instruments that often anymore. I have to buy another stand to put them in, but
yeah, right.
You have to buy another room to put them in.
Yeah, but whatever. But like just the balance of it, like for SGs, for instance,
right,
always have that weird headstock, or often do, yeah. And mine doesn't, and that's just by chance. But what is it is there something that you're looking for, or is it just like general vibe, and like sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't?
It's a general vibe, but it's kind of like what you're talking about. I mean, you want to have a certain resonance, or you want to make sure it sounds good unplugged. When I first played this bass, it had some really ancient flats on it, so it was kind of tough to really get that. But what I fell in love was the neck shape.
It feels very similar to my P bass, to be told.
Yeah.
I didn't AB them like I should, and we certainly will do that before we put them away. But
right, yeah. But that's big for me, and weight. I mean, it's because
that's a good weight for a bass, man.
Yeah, it's older, but I mean, it's a concern. Doing 4-hour gigs. With the downtown thing.
The downtown in-town work.
But even doing a 60 or a 90-minute set, you still want to be able to be comfortable.
Sure.
And with a heavy bass, like we were talking about the Stingray earlier, like I wouldn't want to do that for an hour. Maybe a 3-song whiskey jam thing, but I ain't doing it for
boat anchors, man.
For sure. They're great, but yeah, the same thing. So this is, it kind of checked all the boxes. It had a great neck. I could tell that it had a vibe for sure, even unplugged with the old strings, and the weight obviously was.
And it looks super awesome. That pick guard is gorgeous, man. It looks like a print of fire. It looks like a graphic print.
Well, this is actually a Spitfire pick guard. This is one of the few things on here that was replaced.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, but they do a really good job of doing a replica pick guards.
What's up with the red up top on the top horn?
It's tape.
Tape, yeah.
Oh, it's okay.
It's like
I didn't know if it was
tape.
a refinish or something.
No, not at all. But I mean, there's a lot going on here.
Yeah.
A lot to unpack. But there's a guy named Mr. Watkins, apparently, that owned this bass, and he carved Watt into numerous places on the bass, including the bridge cover, the neck plate, the headstock. Yeah, twice, actually.
What are you doing, Mr. Watkins? That's ridiculous.
Yeah, man. So if Mr. Watkins is out there, man.
I say that, but you got your name on this amp. So
yeah, I know. I can't really talk.
I can't
really talk too much.
And there it is.
Yep, for sure.
It all comes back to the vanity of Johnny Stanton.
So that was an option back in the day, just to let.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
Just
I've
to
never
clue
seen
everybody in on that. Like, I don't want to feel like, hey, what's up with that? But that was an option. You could send your Lucite.
Little placard.
Yeah,
thing.
little placard logo deal, and they would engrave your name for an extra $5-10.
That's probably the least nerdy thing we're going to talk about today.
Well,
so don't. Yeah.
Okay. That's
no
fair.
worries.
Yeah. So I had to get that option.
I've had a shower since I was using the smoker, but I still smell like a smoker. So
it's all right.
If you guys are getting hungry, I'm sorry. So when you're doing sessions, and I know you do several, what do you take? Does it depend on who's calling you?
Yeah, it's usually kind of based on the vibe.
Let's put it this way: if you know nothing going into the session and just pretend that, it's loading in and loading out is no big deal, and getting it there and whatever of your stuff. Like if you had to be prepared for anything, what are you going to take?
I'd probably take this.
Because I know that you have a house that has a bed and then the rest is gear.
Well, yeah, I've gotten a little bit better lately, but yeah. I've got a storage unit and I got some other places where I could stick some gear here and there. But yeah, it was pretty bad there for a while. So I'd probably take this. This is, just regular 61P with flats. Not regular, but I mean, it's just
it's a regular old historic bass.
But just this, because I could do 90% of everything with this, probably.
Right.
Well, not with flats on it, though.
Right. So that would be, but this would be my main bass. But yeah, flats is definitely not my.
Dude, would you ever change the strings, like pull them off and put them back on to do your road thing? If you're looking for a certain vibratory, would you just bring a totally different bass, another P with the rounds?
Yeah, I have a round with, or a P with rounds rather.
I got a round with P's on it.
That too, but no. So I would probably bring another P with rounds.
I'm a doctor too.
Hey. So yeah, bring that. Bring two Ps, one with flats, one with rounds. That's kind of the obvious thing, and then probably a jazz bass. Maybe a 5-string. I've got a 5-string P, and I've got a 5-string.
Oh yeah, you have the twin to my 5-string J, don't you?
I do.
Somebody, Jeremy Middleton?
I do.
He's got a 5-string PJ that sounds really good.
He does, yeah. That's great sounding bass.
I would like to have a 5-string PJ.
Yeah.
Is that the one with both style pickups, but they're kind of like offset from where they normally would be? Like the P is a little further back and the J is a little...
I don't think that the spacing is any different. I think that the bridge of the jazz is in the same spot, and where you would have the neck jazz and a jazz bass pickup, it's just a P bass. Is that?
I think you're right. It just looks a little weird because it's a 5-string, and so you're used to seeing 4-string Ps.
Okay.
Yeah, well, and just that pickup, is just looks different than the skinny ass jazz pickups.
Yeah, you must have your J bass in the case or something.
And there's 70s spacing.
It's over there. Sorry.
Yeah, there's 70s spacing too, where the bridge pickup is different from like the 60s spacing.
Oh, I didn't know that was a thing.
So there's a little difference there that I forgot about Jeremy's, or where his is, but there could be little variations.
His is nothing special. He made some remark about it being nothing special.
No, I know, but I mean, I'm just saying with regard to that sound for your jazz pickup, you can get a little punchier sound by where it's placed.
Okay.
Like the PJs, the Ps typically are farther back on a jazz bass if you were to see a PJ jazz.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Just because sometimes when they get a little farther up toward the neck where they look right, they get a little woollier sounding.
Okay.
Huh.
Just a little thing about
then maybe so.
Well, I know that there's a run of, I can't remember the name of it, but it's the same idea, the PJ, but there's a Japanese run of that.
Sure.
Where the P pickups were placed, I mean, not that much further, half an inch further back, and
sure.
then the J it's just to compensate for spacing, right?
Right.
Because the P is going to take up a little more space. So they had to move one of them. I think it's just maybe the P is further back, but they're not as desirable because it changes, obviously, the tonal properties.
I wouldn't think that you'd want to move the bridge jazz pickup too much because...
No, it's a jazz neck pickup with a P bridge pickup.
Oh, that's different.
I've never seen that.
That's funky. Yeah. That's cool though, or it could be.
You know what? Maybe I have that reversed. Maybe it would be
usually
maybe
reversed.
It would be further towards the P is further towards the neck and the J is further towards the bridge.
That's more common.
That's the only iteration.
Okay. I'm sorry, I had that reversed in my head.
I wonder what that would sound like though. It obviously wouldn't sound good, or somebody would have done it.
Maybe, probably.
I mean, yeah, because that's not where you're going to put the pickup on a P bass, where the bridge jazz.
But I mean, you could do the dual Ps. I mean, those are kind of cool.
Point being that they are moved.
That would be cool.
I've heard that and played that. That's cool. I mean, the old Elites were like that. There's some other basses that have the two Ps, or the dual P.
That's cool. I've not seen that.
But I don't know if I'd want to replace the neck with a jazz.
A dual P.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to put
there's a cool thing with the neck pickup on a jazz for sure. We all kind of,
Yeah, you get that like
sound.
You can get if you roll your bridge pickup back, you can kind of approach Stingray territory a little bit, but I mean it's
right.
It's not the same.
It's definitely not.
But you can kind of get that boxy sound,
right.
In my opinion.
Yeah,
it's not boxy. It's kind of like a big round kind of a...
Yeah, it's got a thing, and it's very usable sound, but it's definitely... I don't know if I'd want to replace that with a jazz versus a P.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Totally.
I think you're right, though. If somebody should have already done it by now, if it would have sounded good.
No doubt. You are listening to the Gear and Beer Podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by Bobby Jam's Kitchen. Want to take your home cooking to the next level? Need new recipe ideas or meal inspiration? Like, follow, and subscribe to Bobby Jam's Kitchen on YouTube and Instagram at Bobby Jam's Kitchen. Cook your food and eat it. About a free-for-all session where you didn't know what you were showing up for.
Right.
Are we
rolling?
Yeah, cool. I mean, yeah, P, J.
Probably a hollow.
Probably
the
a
epi,
hollow.
right?
Yeah, it's epi. It's a Japanese epi, but it sounds great. There's a certain vibe. I mean, it's not the Jack Cassidy, and it's not the really old, like...
What's it? Is it a humbucker?
I think they're single coils, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But, and I have flats on it, and it's got the mute, so... And sometimes I'll tune it down a whole step, depending on the vibe or the song, cool. But it's got a real upright...
It responds well to doing that?
Yeah, especially when you put it through a compressor. I mean, it's got almost like an uprighty vibe.
Oh, that's cool, man.
When some people are like, oh, do you want to bring it upright? It's like, let me try this first, because I think this is probably what you're going for. And it's going to be easier for me to play and easier for you to kind of process. You don't have to mic up the whole thing. And
do you play upright as well?
A little bit.
Right on.
I mean, enough to be, a simple line, but not like crazy... rockabilly guy.
What do you have in terms of upright?
I have 2 Ks right now.
Okay.
I've got a 48 C1 that I actually rescued from my junior high.
Are the Ks all ply?
They're both ply, yeah.
Okay.
And most of the Ks, I think they're all ply, actually.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure about that.
Yeah.
I'm about to have to text security to get me a beer, except for I can't because there's my phone.
I mean, I can also just go get you a beer.
I could just.
I don't think this equipment's going to blow up in the meantime.
Well, I certainly hope not, but you never know with my stuff.
Right.
I don't need it right this second.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have a K, or I have 2 Ks, like I said, and I have another one that's got, so that one's got Zyx strings on it. They're a little more stretchy for doing kind of more bluegrass-y-ish sounding stuff. It's got more looser tension. Then I have another one, a 53 M1 that's got Spirocores on it, which is more of a orchestral string for more kind of like jazz combo stuff.
Interesting.
And I never thought, before I moved to Nashville that either of them were all that cool. But then once I moved here, like, you have 2 Ks?
Dude, you have 2 Ks. It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's pretty sweet.
I never thought it was cool. Then I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll get them fixed up now. And they both get played, by me and my friends and whoever's like, hey, I got a session. Can I borrow that or that bass, rather? It's like, sure. So.
Yeah, Johnny's good for that. Hey, can I borrow this?
Yeah. For sure.
Well, it almost doesn't even matter what you're looking for. He's kind of like that shop that Tom Bukovac used to have, except for it's just his house. Third gear with Johnny Stanton.
Yeah.
I like that when we talked about how much gear is in your house, you were like, it's okay, I've got it under control. I got some storage units. It's like I bought more space just so I could get my house under control.
Right, yeah. I want my living room back.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool, though.
Yeah.
You have a thing, and your thing is stacking gear. That's what's up, man. This is a podcast to celebrate people like you.
Yeah, I mean, gear's great. So I mean, it's been a thing for me since I was a kid. So I got to thank my dad for throwing me in the barrel early. Showing me that, hey, that guitar amp's cool, that bass amp's cool, that thing's junk, don't get that.
Is your dad a musician?
Yeah, he's also a bass player too.
Oh, very cool.
So yeah, he took me into the bars early on.
Professional bass player?
Yeah. And he would take me out and show me bands, or we'd go watch bands and kind of gave me, an early glimpse of what was to come.
Yeah. This is the road you're headed down, son.
It
is what it is.
It is what it is. If you don't like this, then get out now.
Yeah, no doubt.
But I got a taste and I liked it, so,
Well, yeah, you're doing the thing as well as anybody I know doing the thing.
I'd say it worked out.
Yeah, no, it's good.
So we're working through this deep question, or long answered question, I suppose. It's not that deep. It's fairly face value. But so we kind of talked through the bases. Now, do you take like DI with glass in it, or like the SVT, or a Fat Boy, or a Evil Twin, or any of that, Tonecraft, or do you have any of those kind of things?
My go-to lately has been, especially if I don't know what's going on, has been using this Ampeg, the SCR Ampeg.
I've had a lot of good moments with it live, but I can't ever quite get it where I want it for some reason. I guess that's not entirely true. It just depends on the engineer, probably to a certain extent as well.
Sure.
But I find it gets a little clanky. I often cut the treble like a lot.
Right.
Maybe that's just my playing style or something.
That could be, yeah. I mean, I have a tendency to roll back the tone maybe, a quarter turn anyway, just naturally. But
I do that on the jazz. I try to run the P as open as I can because I really like the woody sounds.
Right. Yeah.
And I got steel rounds on mine.
Sure.
I think they're only like a couple of years old.
Right. I just put some steels on my other one that I've been using with rounds, my P with rounds. So hoping for some longevity over the summer with that. So fingers crossed.
Are you playing that 57 out or anywhere?
Not usually. I'll sometimes take that to a session. That also has rounds on it.
Oh, okay.
And it's got the maple neck, like they did then. So, and that's got a certain punch to it that I used that a lot on the last record, the Steelwoods record.
Oh, that's dope.
Old News. And I used my Acme Motown DI on that.
Okay. Man, I almost got one of those, and then I wanted to try out this API, and I'm happy with my choice, but I think I will still probably get one of those Acmes. I mean, that's like a That's a Nashville piece of gear, even though it says Motown.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they're real flat sounding, and they're not super shiny or any of the the buzzwords that you would think of when you think of bass. But it's got all the information, which is what I like about it, because there's nothing scooped.
Yeah.
It's all there.
Well, I can't remember what I'm thinking of. There's when I was looking at all different kind of things. I hesitated and regrettably missed out on a Palmer CDI. What was it? It's a PDI CTC. That's what it is. It's their tube interface, and it's got a tube DI, and it's got I think it's got 4 specific frequency dip switches for boosting or cutting or whatever. And if you can find them, they're usually like $1,200.
Ooh.
I found one for $575, and I was like, man, I don't know. And then like a couple days later, I was like, okay, I'm going to do it, and then it was gone.
Of course, yeah.
Idiot.
Well, Palmer makes some cool stuff, or did, I guess. I don't even know if they're still in business.
No, they are still in business, but they don't make that anymore.
Ah, okay. That's what it is. A lot of their cool stuff got discontinued then, huh?
Yeah, they still make a bunch of other DI products, as far as I could tell, because when searching for that, I was seeing all their stuff.
Sure.
And I think they have load boxes and stuff like that.
Yeah,
they might even have like EQ interfaces. Mm-hmm. I can't remember, man. I fixed and upgraded a bunch of things on all of my different rigs, playing multiple instruments that needed some work.
Sure.
And so I did a lot of research, and I really dragged my feet, as I'm off to do, about spending a bunch of money. But
I hear you.
The API is cool, man. Like, it's totally cool.
It is.
It doesn't have the warm, tubey vibe like I really want, especially for that low end.
Right.
But it is a great natural sound, and the way that it's the values that they chose for the frequency range for your controls are obviously chosen specifically.
Lots of good range.
The comp I haven't looked at what the different settings are. It seems like it's more compressed as you go from 1 to 6.
Well, sure.
And the volume also comes up, so the gain you have to adjust. It's not I don't like compression at all the time when I'm using it live, but if I'm playing a ballad and I've got big long notes, I'm going to turn the compressor on.
Sure.
So it's just kind of annoying having to go back and forth. So I may eventually look for outboard compression. That's the first compression I've ever had on a board. Do you have compression on your board? What are you using?
I don't right now, but I've used different pedals over the years. Everyone's answer to the LA2A and a pedal. Mm-hmm. I was using just a MXR bass compressor for my Wayland bass for, I don't know, maybe a year, just to kind of as a gain boost, not necessarily as a compressor. In the traditional sense.
Sure.
But it worked more as a gain boost. But it also really evened it out. And I've had a lot of friends during that period when I was playing that bass were like, man, I can really hear that bass. So I was like, obviously it's doing something besides just boosting the gain.
Sure. Well, that's interesting to consider. As far as plugins, I really like the 3A on bass, to be totally honest.
Yeah.
But I've never I've never had access to use the hardware in a live setting. I thought about putting, one of those warm audio, building a rack and putting one of those actual hardware compressors on there.
Right.
And then I didn't.
Well, they sound great, and
they do sound great.
And they sound pretty close to the real thing.
Every AB that I've heard and every engineer that I've talked to seem to think that they've done a pretty good job.
Oh yeah,
so.
Right.
Man, in terms of, you're talking about outboard gear on a live situation, making me think there's a lot of companies that are making that idea. So Chandler is currently making pedals.
Right. Chandler
just started making pedals.
Really?
I know we've talked about with Boo the UA stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Petty John is one that you may want to check out in terms of compressor. Because their thing is essentially outboard gear in a pedal form, right?
Yeah.
So they've
super high quality components.
Yeah.
We'll see how that translates. I mean, that's my biggest thing, it seems like, with outboard gear is hearing the transformers. When you're really smacking it, that's when you can hear a difference.
Yeah.
Versus a plug-in.
Sure.
But I mean, even the plug-ins sound great these days.
Well, and that's crazy too, man, because not everybody has access to a big ass studio full of real ass gear.
Right.
And I don't know many working musicians that can afford that kind of gear unless they,
of course,
only spend their money on that and they live in a trailer or whatever. And I mean, even still, you would still need to be doing really well to afford all that stuff.
Sure.
So it's like, out of necessity, the plugins now sound really good because
they really do.
I mean, almost all major engineers, unless you're just really trying to get a tape vibe and digital be damned, like everybody's doing at least some stuff in the box.
Sure.
And they're doing it because it sounds right, or they wouldn't do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, for years they didn't have that stuff, and doing it the hard way or the long way or the expensive way, which I guess are kind of all the same way, was no thwart to the engineer. So that just tells you the quality of those products. So I tangented.
There you go.
I tangented. That's not a word. I'm going to keep saying it.
Let's come some hyphens in there.
I'm going to move forward.
Okay.
So you bring your Motown and you bring your SCR. Are you bringing this B15 and like a SVT as well?
Probably not.
Really?
Unless it's really called for. Unless there's like a real organic vibe going on, a producer.
Well, I'm saying if you're going in blind and
I'm 9 times out of 10 I'm not going to use it unless it's really requested. Like, hey, we want to have a live rig.
Yeah.
Like bring a B15 or some vibey amp. Otherwise, I'm going direct 9 times out of 10.
Right on. That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, just because there's no real need for it usually, unless that's really requested.
Right. Sure. Well, and just. So, and I didn't know that, whether you were or not, but a lot of times guys are just like, this is my sound, this is how I get my sound, and I'm going to do that, or you can call somebody else.
Right. I mean, I don't have a big rack full of a bunch of outboard gear that some guys do.
Sure. But what I meant was like, my sound is this mic on this amp, and that's how I get my bass.
Sure. Sure. And there's something to be said for that, too. I mean, obviously, I'm a big B15 fan, but...
Well, or an
Ampeg fan in general, really.
Sure. Ampeg is a very particular sound, and I enjoy it a lot. I have a friend whose name I won't mention who's swears that he doesn't like it, and I'm just not sure that you've ever used anything real good, because they have a bunch of like what I would call intermediate level gear, just like a lot of companies.
Well, yeah, there's different eras where they were went through different quality control eras.
Well, and just like the different models, like
models too, yeah.
The 4 Pro, 6 Pro, 7 Pro, like
right.
Those are like era-specific needs in those amps that are not really the thing. Like a lot of the stuff that they did in the 90s seemed very geared towards like the heavy rock guy thing that was happening.
Right. And they had the weird speaker configurations, rather, with like, the 4.8 cabinets,
the
412 cabinets, all these weird,
Man, one of the best cabinets that I've heard to this day was still a 412 Bergantino cabinet.
Oh, yeah, they're great.
It was massive for, considering. I mean, it was almost as big as a fridge.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But damn, it sounded good, man.
I've come around on the 12s for bass. I never was really a 12 guy, but since I've been using these 212 Ampegs, man, that's just changed my whole world or my whole attitude toward 12s.
Have you heard the Schroeder cabinets?
I have.
Man, the ISO 212 and just the regular offset 212 are two of the biggest sounding cabinets. My buddy Wes plays those, and he's actually the only person that I've seen in a live scenario play them. I've seen pictures of dudes playing them.
Sure.
But I will be damned if that dude cannot fill any room with like the way he wants his bass to sound. Oh, yeah. And like no matter whether it's soft or whether it's loud, it's still like fills that.
Oh yeah, they're punchy.
Yeah, man, it's crazy.
Yeah, for how big they are. I mean, my buddy Chris has one too, and it's the first time I heard it, I was like, whoa.
And his are both they're neo cabs.
Yeah, they're neo cabs, and they're huge. I mean, they're huge sounding for not a very big footprint.
Right, you could put straps on it and put it on your back and walk walk a few blocks, do a little Nashville trot, if you will.
Backpack that thing to the car, man.
I yesterday played downtown a guitar then bass double.
Ooh.
So Lyndon texted me. Apparently he was down there too, and he said, "Where are you going with all that gear?"
You looked like you were in like a Mad Max caravan.
Hey, I kind of was.
The amount of gear that you had.
Right.
I was just I didn't have the guitar player with the flame-throwing guitar strap to the front or anything, but
you should have.
Should I
down
have?
there these days? Let's not even start that.
Well,
oh yeah,
fair enough.
It's open season, man.
Right.
What have you been listening to lately, man?
Oh man, wow.
Just interesting segue, but I don't even think I've ever asked a guest that, but that's something that I'm often interested in, like what other people are listening to. It's a good way to find out about new music and stuff. But then there are a lot of musicians, and I don't know if you're one of them, who just like don't listen to music, and I don't understand it, but I do it.
I do, but I listen to a lot of my old favorites. You know, I'm not
same.
That being said, though, I have listened to some new guys that I dig.
Because you've been doing this radio thing, right?
Right. Yeah, I was doing a spot on Gimme Country, and I did a spot on Gimme Country rather, and I'm doing another one in July. But but I've also been listening to new music, especially guys that come out and open for us that I've been digging as well. There's a band called Wilder Blue.
Yeah, that's my homies, dude.
Yeah, from Texas, right? Yeah, exactly.
That's Andy Rogers' band.
Yeah, Andy's. Yeah, Zane Williams, all those cats from Texas.
The post Oso Closo.
Yeah, we'll post a lot of things for Andy,
okay.
But he was doing Zane Williams for a minute, and this is his band with Zane Williams.
Isn't that who Mike Tuck was playing with?
Zane was playing. Mike was playing with Zane. Yeah. Now Mike is actually playing with Pat Green.
What?
He's utility for
Mike's
Pat
playing
Green.
with Pat Green?
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah. Indeed, man. I don't know how he's doing that, being in the Air Force and living in California.
Well,
but
he's
if you can
doing
pull
it,
off,
man. He's a working one.
Good for him.
No, I think he actually just moved back to Texas.
Okay.
I'm not sure what his living situation, and he was living in a trailer or like a motorhome or like maybe it was like one of those tiny homes or something, some sort of weird California redneck situation. But then there was like I don't know. I've seen a lot of Instagram stories whether he was having water leaks or something. So
I'm sorry to bunny trail us super hard. What was the name of the band again?
The Wilder Blue.
Wilder Blue. Okay.
Yeah, definitely check that out.
For sure.
The record is called Hill Country. That's available right now. I know that they're currently or just finished being in the studio working on a second one.
Okay.
It's like imagine if America and Pure Prairie League did more folksy music.
Agreed. Yeah, Pure Prairie League is definitely a good comparison. They sing like birds.
Dude,
harmonies are super tight.
Man, that tune Adios, did they do that live?
I don't know.
It's the coolest tune on that record, just based on the vocal thing that happened. And that's one of the tunes that Zane doesn't sing.
Okay.
I don't know who's doing that. Who's the other singer.
Zane is in the band.
Yeah, Zane is in the band. He sings the majority, and he plays acoustic guitar.
It's kind of his. Well, I mean, it's a band, obviously.
Well, he's certainly the one with the most notoriety that I'm aware of.
Right.
Because he did well in Texas for over a decade.
Is Andy singing too?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's singing and he's playing like
sounds good.
dobro and banjo and some.
He's jumping around a lot.
Yeah, some mando. But
yeah.
Just generally being a red-bearded son of a bitch. But
your name gets brought up almost nightly.
Speaking of,
that's probably not good for me. But
no, it is good.
That's fun.
It's good for all of us.
Yay!
But no, there's a song called Palomino Gold by those guys.
Yeah, that's a great one too.
That's been getting a lot of play, and they sound great live playing that. I mean, they sound great playing live. All their songs, but
I'll do my best to put a link to that record on Spotify.
I got a note here for you,
my man.
Cool. But yeah,
Lyndon McCarty, Twisting and Tweaking.
That's one of the new bands I've been listening to because they're relatively new.
Same.
Yeah.
He called me when they were opening for you guys here like 4 weeks ago.
Okay.
And that's the first time he even bothered to tell me he was even doing that. And I was like, "What are you have a new band?"
What?
He's like, "Yeah, I'm in town tonight." And it's like, "Of
course.
Are you free in 3 hours?" It's like, "Well, no, Andy, I have things going on. But if you had told me like as soon as yesterday,
right.
I would have had maybe an opportunity."
Right.
But so I went and listened to it, and that's great too.
Sure.
Did you include any Wilder Blue on Gimme Country?
I did.
I had a boy. Palomino Gold?
Palomino Gold.
Yeah.
It's kind of my go-to. But that being said, there's a bunch of other great songs. And I'm sure they're going to have some other new great songs as well. But
what are some other bands that you've been checking out?
I'm trying to think of some other ones up here, kind of off the cuff. I've been working with a guy named Tony Cacchetti up in Wisconsin some. Been recording with him. He's a great singer-songwriter.
This means my beer's empty.
I see that. Yeah.
I got you, bro. What you want?
Whatever. A cold beer.
How do you spell Cacchetti?
Cuchetti.
Okay.
He's from Detroit, lived in Florida, lives in Minnesota now. He's a great singer-songwriter buddy of mine. Another guy, Rye Davis, played on his record a while back. He's in Kentucky. Been digging his stuff lately. I've been doing some blues gigs actually with a guy named Scott Raminger. He's a sax player from DC.
Okay.
So that's been fun, and he's got a new record out with a bunch of guys from. I don't know if it's new. Maybe it's been out for a few years, but I've been digging his record lately.
Right on. Some blues.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's got
blues sax.
Blues sax. Got some New Orleans cats on it. Some.
Okay. A little swampy action, maybe.
Oh yeah. Got George Porter Jr. playing bass on that record. That's pretty sweet.
Okay.
I'm digging that.
Okay. So on this Gimme Country thing, like, tell me more about that. We talked about it briefly, but I don't. So is it an internet radio site or?
Yeah, it's internet radio.
Okay.
There's an app. I mean, you can go to the website as well. But you can download the app as well. And they have a lot of great artists,
and
DJs.
Is it Give Me or is it Gimme?
Gimme.
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 Gimme Country.
Gimme Country, yeah. And, I mean, there's a bunch of great guest DJs on there, so that's worth checking out if you haven't already. Jesse Dayton, I think, has his own channel on there, and a bunch of other great, regular guests. So
okay, well, so, like, when you do a show, is it you do it and then it's done and it's gone, or can people find it?
I think they replay it, but I don't think there's any way of.
Okay, so they're doing,
back.
like, actual radio, not like.
I don't think you can go back and click on whatever show. I mean, maybe you can. I honestly don't know.
Well, I certainly don't either. So we can move on then.
No, it's all good.
Well, that's cool, man. That makes me.
There you go. Refill.
My man. So we talked earlier. I mentioned earlier about doing the radio show in Dallas called the Dallas Jazz Rodeo on Deep Ellum Radio.
Yeah.
Deep Ellum's obviously, if you don't know, just an entertainment district in Dallas, kind of like the French Quarter would be, or Broadway would be.
I remember you telling me about that because I had never really, as many times as I've been to Dallas, I've never really been down there. I've heard of it for years.
Really? I guess that makes sense because you're playing bigger venues. I mean, Trees or the Ballroom would have been something that you guys could have done. Trees probably. Maybe a little small. Well, no, because I've seen seven ducks
I saw Animals as Leaders in there, and it was packed, and there was a ton of people. Their capacity is pretty large.
Well, that being said, I mean, I might have actually been there and not even known it.
That's fair.
But I once you pointed that out, I was like, oh, this is cool. This is way cool.
It's a cool place. Well, and it's been through a bunch of, it wasn't that cool. It was like dying when I was just coming out of high school. And then it tried to rebirth, and then it kind of died some more, and now it's been pretty heavily gentrified.
Right.
But some of it's good. There's some really cool restaurants down there. But
for sure.
My favorite two clubs down there are now dead. The Club Clearview died over a decade ago, and then most recently a club called the Curtain Club died. Curtain Club was a small room, but it was the best sounding room down there, man.
Right on.
And my buddy Chad Lavelle was the engineer there, and he was just a great engineer in the room. And you run into so many issues with, like, you know, sound engineers that, like, have egos because they know that they work in a cool spot. And, like, you know, unless you're traveling with your own engineer, which not a lot of people are able to do that, Chad was always, like, he didn't care. If you were cool and not a dick, he was going to make you sound good. And even if you were a dick, he was going to tell you were a dick and then make you sound good.
Well, that's good, at least.
It was a cool room. We will miss that room.
Yeah. That's unfortunate. It seems like that's happening to a lot of places around the country.
Yeah, man, that's the way it goes. People need to erect high rises and put in commercial space, bro. And you got to bring in Shake Shack. What else are we going to do, man?
Right. Well, I'm glad that we're carrying our own engineer, luckily. I mean, that's like you were saying. I mean, unless you're carrying those guys, it can be, you know, obviously the whim of the club, you know.
Sure.
Or that dude on his day, you know, he might be feeling good or bad or whatever.
So. Yeah, old lady kicked him out that morning because he, you know,
something
drank 2/5 of Skull vodka the night before.
Oh Lord
have mercy.
I mean, some of those dudes are like that. They
that's true.
You know, crawl out of the bottle to barely make it to work, and then be grumpy until they have their first 8 drinks.
Yeah, there's something to be said for that.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's something else to be said for, and that's for today's guest, Johnny Stanton. Appreciate you stopping by and hanging out with us, man.
Yeah, thanks, Robert.
We should. I think it's time to adjourn to the kitchen.
All right,
and do.
I just tasted one of those potatoes when I was downstairs. I'm pretty excited.
Well, so that's it. We're calling it.
Cool.
Johnny Stanton of the Steel Woods. Check them out. Check them out anywhere that they are.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay. And sorry, I ran out of steam there. That's the train derailed a little bit.
It's all right.
Lyndon McCarty, Twistin' and Tweakin'. I'm Robert Miller. This is the Gear and Beer Podcast. If you do not already, please follow us on Instagram and YouTube. Subscribe on any of your podcast sites.
There it is.
Excuse me. I'll edit that out.
This ending is going real well.
And Gear and Beer. And don't forget that Lyndon is a dick. See you next time.
Love you.
See y'all.
Thank you for listening to the Gear and Beer Podcast. Make sure and subscribe and turn on notifications for our channels. And if you haven't already, follow our Instagram and YouTube channels. We truly appreciate your support and ask that you please tell anyone you know whom you think might be interested in our podcast about gear and beer to help us grow and continue bringing in great guests from around the industry and beyond. Thanks again, and until the next episode.